And now continuing with our inductions tonight, our next inductee tonight is Charles "Chuck" Leeming. Who's had many names throughout the years. You might say that he's been a man among many animals. He's been a lion, a cub, a lark, a bear, a colt, a tiger, an unwanted ugly duckling. He's been a sports zookeeper, you might say, but maybe the best way to describe him is local legend. A legend that was born on ice rinks, fastball diamonds, and a legend that has grown throughout the decades. I think we should also call him Bunny as an energizer, because I don't know how he played all of these things, had this great family, was a great person in business as well, and still played games in rinks and diamonds. And then, of course, I believe he absolutely retired far too early. Last year, at the age of 79. Tonight, Leeming, the legend, skates into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
The greatest game on earth. That's what 2023 Aurora Sports Hall of Fame inductee Charles Leeming calls hockey. It's a game he played for an incredible 70 years. Born May 8, 1943, Charles Leeming spent some of his formative years growing up in Kettleby, but at the age of 7, he moved to Aurora and went on to become a fixture in the hockey community. Learning to skate just years after he discovered how to walk, the idea of sliding across a slippery surface at great speed was too alluring for him to turn down. Leeming only hung up his blades in 2022 due to a knee injury. In the early 50s, Charles Leeming got his first taste of hockey as a peewee player in Aurora. Not long after, he moved up to Bantam and helped his team take home the Bantam Championship. In 1957, while playing on the Aurora Bantam team, he and his teammates won the Ontario Championship. He has said that over the years, he was lucky enough to learn from some very experienced coaches. In 1958, an eager Charles signed up to play at the midget level, only to discover that the team had no sponsors and no coach. That year, the team hit the ice wearing used jerseys that were tattered and torn. The local newspaper dubbed the team the Unwanted Ugly Ducklings. Leeming wasn't bothered by it. He was just happy to be playing the game he loved. At age 16, Charles was playing juvenile hockey. Thankfully, this time around, there was no issue getting a sponsor or a coach. Not long after that, he became a Junior B player for the Aurora Bears. It was 1961, and Roger Nielsen, who coached in the NHL, was Leeming's coach. In 1962, Charles Leeming was a player on the first Aurora Tigers team. It was a Junior C level. The left winger, supported by a strong right wing and center, scored 40 goals during regular season play. He was 19 at the time, married and a father, but he was still pursuing a dream of playing professional hockey.
Well, Chuck will give you 100% every day. Whether it be working, do the woodworking, he's a tool and die maker by trade, but anything that he does, it has to be right, it has to be perfect. I'm not going to do it the second time, I do it the first time and do it right. Chuck and I just hit off as good friends, and this has been that way ever since.
Fair play, respect, and discipline are qualities that Leeming has always carried with him, both on and off the ice. His dedication to the game extended beyond himself and into his community. He has coached both hockey and baseball teams. Next to hockey, it was the sport of baseball that kept him active. During his time on the baseball field, he was part of a team that won 3 Ontario championships and 2 Canadian championships. Charles began playing organized baseball at 12 and continued to play until he hung up his cleats in the late 70s. When Charles Leeming aged out of the local hockey league, he continued to play pickup for several years. He was also a big supporter of the NHL Old Timers Hockey Club. At one point, he was even asked to be the stuntman for a TV show that included the NHL Old Timers and the Aurora Old Timers team Old Colts. Charles received a certificate of appreciation from the NHL Old Timers Hockey Club, honoring his involvement in the charity exhibition hockey game.
I think he's a major credit to the town of Aurora. And to me, Chuck is probably the best amateur athlete I think I've ever seen.
Charles will be forever remembered, not only for his excellence in Aurora sports, but also for his commitment to the community.
I would like to congratulate Chuck for being inducted into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. Honestly, I feel that Chuck should have been there probably years ago, but I think it's a privilege and it's an honor for Chuck to be there, and for honor for the town of Aurora to have someone like that as a member of the Sports Hall of Fame.
And now, in recognition of his outstanding contributions to the sport of hockey, we are proud to welcome Charles Leeming into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
Greg Maltby from Maltby Electric and Paige Elena Binstock can come to the stage and hand out the cardigan to the world's oldest teenager. King Charles. Yes, sir. The most, oh, one more. Come on, family, come on out here. Closer. Closer. Go ahead. Anybody else would like to hand their phones to our photographer? These will be available on social media. By the way, yes, by the way, all the videos tonight, they're a bit shorter this year, but all the full videos can be seen on the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame website, which I think is very important to learn about the legacies. The most important thing that you can do in sports in your community is to be sports for your community. This guy is that. Please welcome Charles Leeming to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
It's a privilege to be here tonight amongst the fellow inductees and the members of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. There are so many people that have played a part in my induction. Thank you, Greg Maltby, who is my sponsor for the award. I'd like to thank Wendy Brown and the other members of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame and Selection Committee who felt that my candidacy was worthy of consideration. It's a pleasure to be inducted with fellow inductees, Jim Thompson, Lori Buckley, and Frank Mayton. Thank you, Paul Riley, who was the artist who did a great job of making me look so good on the plaque. And thank you to all the volunteers who have worked so hard to make this evening special, particularly the Hall's president, Javin Palmer. The past few months have been a bit overwhelming in a good way. Everyone associated with the Sports Hall of Fame and this event have gone out of their way to make it special. Thank you all very much. Seeing that video, summarizing my amateur career is humbling. Thanks to everyone who had put a part in putting it all together. My introduction to athletics started, as you know, in Kettleby, where I was born. That's where I learned to skate on a frozen pond. And I can still remember the very first time I stepped on the ice. I promptly fell on my butt. By the end of the day, I was able to shuffle along by myself. I moved to Aurora in 1950, which at the time had a population of about 3,300. But despite its relatively small size, it still managed to produce some pretty good hockey teams. There weren't a lot of kids in town then, so it wasn't too hard to make friends. And you did what kids did back then. You hung with your buddies, likely got into some kind of mischief, and eventually gravitated to playing sports together. To me, sports were an extension of hanging with my buddies. There was a group of us who were called the Link Rats. And we used to spend our time at the original arena, which was located on Yonge Street before it burned down. And when the rink was rented to other teams, we would have to shovel and flood the ice. So during the week, we had teams in Toronto coming up to use our ice. So we would sit in a room, do our homework, and then be ready to prep the ice for the other teams. We used to shovel the snow down to the end of the rink into a pit. And sometimes the players would lose their pucks in this pit. And then come the spring, we were always able to retrieve the pucks and we saved them. And then after hours, when the ice was free, we would practice shooting these pucks from across the blue line, set them up different angles. If I'm perfectly honest, I probably spent a whole lot more time shooting pucks than I did doing my homework. After playing intramural sports in school, I started playing organized hockey in 1955 for the Aurora Lions. A lot of this people probably heard. And we won the North York Bantam Championship my first year. That was quite an accomplishment for a modest town of Aurora. In the 56-57 season, you heard it, we were playing for the Lions and we won the Bantam All-Provincial Championship. We were playing against a team from St. Mary's. And it was a bit of a nail-biter as we were behind in the final game, but we managed to pull it off and ended up bringing the trophy back to Aurora for the first time in 10 years. Some people would have found a payphone and they called back to Aurora to share the good news of our victory. And when we got back to Aurora, somewhere close to midnight, we were greeted by a cheering group of townspeople who had to come out and congratulate us. The following day, the celebration continued when we got to ride around town on the back of a fire truck. In '62, I had the privilege of playing for the Aurora Tigers In the inaugural year, I was the only player in the team with a young family. The team sponsors, Wilson's Hardware and Cousins Dairy, actually paid for a babysitter so my wife could come down and watch the games. That's just another example of community support. As you heard, I had a great year with the Tigers, scoring 40 goals. And the line I played on, we led the league in all three categories. My right winger, Gord Burbridge, had the most assists. I had the most goals. And our centerman, Roy Pugh, another Aurora resident, he had the most total points. Back then, teams didn't have any manager in public relations or anything like that. But I had my own publicist of sorts. One day, my mother and grandmother were in the stands watching one of my games, when a supporter from the other team made a negative comment. Well, my grandmother was sitting behind me, so she promptly rolled up a program and whacked the guy in the shoulder while reading him out. I think he learned right then and there, you don't mess with Aurora mums or hockey grandmothers. Most of you know, the Tigers are now owned by my fellow deputy, Jim Thompson. They're a great team and have won the RBC Cup championships twice. It's people like Jim who have kept sports alive and flourishing in our town. And Jim was kind enough to invite me out at the beginning of the season to drop the puck for the game home opener. Never in a million years did I think that as a member of the Aurora Tigers 61 years earlier, I would have the pleasure of being the center ice again. Thank you, Jim. In '65, I was attending a training camp for the Eastern Hockey League's Nashville Dixie Flyers. And I was thrilled to make the team. But I was back home in Aurora for the weekend after the camp had finished. And I was supposed to meet the guys back in Rhode Island because we were going to play some exhibition games on the way back to Nashville. They had offered me $140 a week in my contract. At the time, I was 21 years old with a wife and 2 kids under the age of 2. And I would have had to move to the States and support the family in Aurora. So Judy and I, we sat down and talked about it, and we couldn't do it on $140 a week. So I called them, asked them if I could get a little more money just to make the numbers work. And shortly after that call, I received a telegram saying, "Do not report to Rhode Island, we have replaced you with another player." At the time, I was bitterly disappointed, but with the wisdom of hindsight, that was likely the best thing that ever happened to me. I would have been all over the States, on a bus all the time, and would have been home, Judy would have been home alone with 2 kids. I needed to be there for my family. So I moved to playing local hockey and never looked back. At the age of 35, I joined the Old Timers Hockey, and I played for another 45 years. And I met some great people who became great friends. Many of them are sitting right in this section tonight. Thanks to all you fellas. But while I continued to play hockey and enjoy it, I decided to take up a summer sport to stay in shape, which led me to fastball. In 1963, I was a member of the Aurora Glenville Farms Dairy team that won the All-Ontario Championship for Intermediate B Fastball. The team was coached by Norm Stundon, a member of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. In 1968, Normie recommended me to go and play for the Vanish Jewelers team in Richmond Hill. And I was fortunate enough to play for the Dimes between 67 and 75. In 71 and 73, we won the All-Ontario Senior A Men's Championship. In 75, we won the Canadian Senior Men's Championship. And in 72, the team had actually won the World Championship. I missed that year. It was great. It was a great team, some great players, and a whole lot of fun. Playing amateur sports for Aurora has been incredibly fulfilling. And I had the opportunity to be coached by some illustrious coaches, such as the late Bill Mundell and Roger Nielsen. I traveled around the GTA, the province, and the country, seeing places and meeting people from all walks of life. It's been a real nice ride. Being here tonight would not have been possible without the support of my family, who actually nominated me without my knowledge. I guess they didn't want me to be disappointed if I didn't get in. My wife of 61 years, Judy, she's been by my side for all my athletic endeavors. And it's not lost on me, while I was on the rink or on the ball diamond, she was home caring for our kids or trying to watch a game by chasing two little ones. Thank you, Judy, for your My daughter Cindy is here tonight, as is my son Bob and his wife Diane. Thanks for your love over the years. I was reviewing the nomination documents that my family completed to support my candidacy for the Hall of Fame. And one of the selections on the form section was asking the date of my last competition. Well, while it wasn't exactly a formal competition, in 2017, I joined my son and his hockey team for our European tour, where we played 5 games in 5 different countries. Our whole family came along, and it was so much fun to play along Bob and his friends. It's a dream for a hockey dad. Not to be outdone by these guys, who are at least 20 years younger. I managed to be the second highest scorer. So, I was recently asked what it means to be in the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. And it's hard to describe how I feel. It's humbling, joyful, emotional, exciting, and exhilarating all at once. Not unlike playing sports itself. Thank you for this incredible honor.